when you have information in Excel, and here I already have, my information, my income source, my monthly amount here in the table data worksheet. When you know that the information is accurate, you can format these sorts of things into a table, and so that you can sort and visualize your information better. And so how do we do this? Well, as always in Excel, there is multiple ways that you can do things, from keyboard shortcuts to toggle things on the top. So what we're going to first do, you want to select your data. And for the specific case of this, we're going to look at income sources and a monthly amount. And in this case, some are exacts and some are estimates. And when you're clicking in your data, it doesn't really matter where, as long as you have your data sheet selected. So under the Home tab, we're going to go down to the Styles tab, which is over here. And your first drop-down arrow here is Format a Table. So when you click on the drop-down arrow, you see it's going to give you all kinds of options and colors and themes as they appear here. And how do you know what theme? So these are almost pre-selected. So how do you know what theme you're working with in Excel? Well, to do that, I'm going to click out of here. To find the themes group, if you go over to the page layout tab and themes, it's the very first button here, and you select there are all kinds of different themes that you can use in Excel. Default theme is always going to be the Office theme, but there are different things. And basically they change the colors, they change the font, they change kind of the look and the feel, but always Office will always be your default theme. We are just going to stick with that default theme for today. But if you don't like this look, feel free to change your theme. It does not make a difference when you're creating a table. So to go back to our home, we are going to format a table. So again, we're going to go over to the Format a Table. We're going to select the drop-down. And we're going to create, oh, sorry. We're going to create a table. Sorry, Caitlin, did you see that person coming in at the top? Sorry. So here, when you click on whatever option you want, it's going to ask you what sort of a range of data that you want to use. Okay, so for today, we are going to simply use the income sources and the monthly amounts. It's giving us that range here. Our table has headers. If your table does not have headers, obviously you would uncheck this box and you're going to click OK. And you can see that it's given you a very simple table here. If you wanted to add other information, if you had more columns and rows that had additional information in them, you wanted to add them to your table, you could do that. You simply just select the range when you're creating. In this case today, we are only just going to use 2 for simplicity purposes. And once you're here, you can format your table. So what will pop up, you're going to always get this additional table design. So if you've selected your mouse in your table, this table design ribbon will come up. If you select out of your table, that table design ribbon goes away. So it's really only to format the table itself, not anything else in your worksheet. And this table has all kinds of options. Under the table style section, you can do lots of things. You can take away your header or add your header. If you don't have a total column, if you select here under total row, it will total that for you. And again, it will take the data that you have selected only and create a total. Or if you don't want it, take it away. Again, things that it will do automatically for you based on the range that you've selected. If you don't like the color theme or you want a different color theme, in the table styles, you can change You can change your mind. You can change it so that you have banded columns and rows. So you can see there. If you don't know what banded columns and rows are, I'll show you. If you take the banded row selection off, it removes the colors in the band. So it would be a dark color and a light color. If you like that, you can keep it on. You can also do the same thing with columns. You can also format the first and the last column. So if you wanted your first column, in this case, to be bold, you could do that, or you could do the same thing for the final column. Again, totally up to you how you want to format your table, but there are all kinds of options here in this table style options. The last thing to do is the filter button. And when you create a table in Excel, you will automatically get this filter button selection. So if you don't know how to use the filter button, or it's not applicable to the information you have, you can uncheck that and it will go away, or you will check it. But the filter allows you to sort things from smallest to largest, let's say, largest to smallest, and in other ways. Or you could simply, if you don't want all of the information, you can select or unselect all, and it would just simply remove it or keep it. Right now, we're going to keep it all, but this filter button allows you to do lots of different things. You can sort it again by color. You can filter if things are equal to or greater than, less than, etc. Other things that you can do in your table design, you can export this data to other things. Now, for today's purposes, we're not going to export any data out of Excel. We are only working in Excel. Over in the tools section, there are lots of things that you can do here. You can create a pivot table with your data, which we will be touching on at the end of the webinar. You can remove duplicates. So if you have not sorted your data prior to putting your data in a table, and you've realized that you have duplicate entries, you can remove duplicates. I don't have any duplicates, so it's redundant right now. You can also convert to a range. And what that means is that if you no longer want these range of cells in a table, you can simply convert to range, and it will take it back out of the table and into the data that you had prior to creating the table. Really simply way of doing it rather than using the back or the undo arrow. The other thing to do here is under the properties tab. This is really, really important. This only gives a couple of options. One, resizing your table. So if you want your columns or your rows to be larger or smaller, or you need to add something, you can do that in the resize table function. It also it will give a standard table name. And I would recommend always, when you're working with data, you rename your tables to whatever you're working with, rather than table 1, table 2. So if you had 20 or 25 tables in your workbook, by giving each a name, then you can reference those a lot quicker than just simply table 1, table 2, table 3. So if you wanted to, you could make this monthly income. And as always in Excel, for something to stick, you must hit enter. So if you don't hit enter, obviously that won't save. If you want to just leave it table 1, table 2, that's totally up to you. But again, really, really good to have your table named. So that is really simply a simple way of creating a table. If you have large data sets, obviously it's really, really convenient to put your items in a table, especially if you want to sort, if you want to analyze the data, it makes it a lot easier in a table format than just simply in a data set. So the second section we're going to look at quickly is pie charts. So I believe tab 2 in your workbook that Caitlin sent you should be some pie chart data. And I don't know if you've got the graph or not. I think I probably sent it with all of the graphs just so that everybody has a good visual, but I will work from the beginning. So this is where, we're going to look at a pie chart and where information would be best suited to use a pie chart in Excel. So the purpose of a pie chart is to show the relationship between individual parts and a whole. And as we looked at, we have a whole bunch of individual parts here. So we have income sources within a family. We have spouse 1, who maybe is a graphic designer and has monthly income of X. We have spouse 2, who is in accounting, and they have monthly income of X. Both have some side jobs, so there's some extra income here. but they're estimates. They're not exacts. So these sorts of incomes where, you know exactly what you're getting on an hourly basis are exact incomes. Property maintenance and carpentry, we maybe, have an estimate. Let's say a spouse does dance lessons, they know exactly what they're making, but you have a little craft side gig as well. You estimate that you get, in this case, $275 a month. And here of a total. So these are all parts that make the total as a whole. So in a case of this really, it would be a useful thing to use if we wanted to look at putting it into a pie chart. If your spreadsheet is far too complex, if it has lots of text and numerical data, and is, a pie chart would not be the most useful chart to use, just simply because the data is far too complex for the information that you want displayed in front of you. So if we want to create a pie chart, I'm going to delete this pie chart just so that we can start again. So what we want to do is we want to select the data that we want to have in our pie chart. And for this purpose, we don't care specifically for what's exact and what's an estimate, but we want to look at the monthly income here. So we select the range of our data that we want to put into a chart. If we go up to the Insert tab, it's the second tab at the top, and we go over, we're going to choose Recommended Charts. Now, there are in the Charts section under this ribbon here, there are all different kinds of charts that you can use. Again, you can use a pie or a donut chart, you can use a line chart, you could use a scatter plot. There are lots of different things. Excel will always make recommendations based on the data that you have in front of you. So in this case, we're going to click Recommended Charts just to see what options come up. So again, it gives us cluster charts, it gives us a pie chart, it gives us, a Pareto chart. It gives lots of different things. You can also go into the all charts and you can choose what you want. You can also do it this way. And in this case, we know we want to use a pie chart. So I can simply go here and click the down arrow. And you can see the different pie charts, very standard pie charts, 2D pie charts, 3D pie charts, or a donut pie chart. So again, lots of different varieties that we can use. I'm going to select a 3D pie chart just for today. So again, if we choose this pie chart, you can drag it anywhere you want. You can create a new sheet. You can put it on its own sheet if you want. Doesn't really matter. It's really for viewing purposes. But when you click on this, you will get, as you can see, some new ribbons at the top. If I click away from my chart, you notice that those ribbons go away. If you click back to your pie chart, you can design and format your pie chart based on the information in front of you. So in this chart design tab, there are lots of things that you can do. You can add chart elements. So you can choose to add a chart title. You can choose to have no title. You can have a title above. You can center your things. There are lots of options under chart titles. And to easily change your chart title, you just simply click here and you can change it. So let's just say we're choosing monthly income. Again, whatever your data, you choose what you want. There are also other formatting options that you can do under the Add Chart Elements section, such as data labels. And what I mean by data labels is labels within your pie chart. So right now, as it stands, there are no labels. So we don't really know the dollar values of what each section of the pie represents. You can easily add these, and you can add whatever ones you want. Center, on the outside, vary on the outside, whatever fits. Well, for this section, I'm just going to select best fit so that we can see what we're working with. There's also legend options here. And again, they're currently at the bottom, but depending on what you want, you can move those around. We'll just stick them at the right for now. There's other features in the chart design under quick layout. So you can change your chart type to look for different here. And there's lots of options. You can, if you don't like it, you can change the colors. Again, these are all very default themes and they're based on the theme that's in Excel that we talked about earlier, but choose as you may. And under quick layout, you can change the way that the pie chart is viewed on your graph. So again, very, very subjective based on what you want, but there are so many options to make it custom look for what the purpose that you're using it for. Under the data tab, you have the option to switch out if you choose where the data is sitting. So you can switch your columns and your rows. You can switch your chart type if you want. Or like I talked about, you can move the chart location. So right now, this pie chart is currently just sitting within our worksheet. If you wanted to move it to its own worksheet, it would create a new worksheet, and I'll just show you what I mean. It would name it chart 1. You could then here rename your chart so you knew it would move it to its own worksheet. So obviously I'm going to just undo that so that we can, oh, it's not going to undo it. That's okay. But again, you can kind of see all of the options there. If we move to our next tab, which is our graphs tab, it's the third tab in your workbook. Again, very similar concept as to how you create these. This is simply, and a makeshift Amazon annual sales in billions of dollars for a period of 12 years. And again, in order to do this, we're going to show 2 different types of graphs. But again, you want to select your data set. And then if you go to insert and recommended charts based on the information, so if you don't know what you're looking to do, based on the information in front of you, Excel will give you recommendations. So in this case, this is a very simple line chart. Line charts allow us to display kind of trends over years, months, days, whatever your data set asks. And it allows you to see very nicely if there's growth or if there's decrease. So if you had a own source revenue business on your nation or in your company, and you wanted to track trends, say leadership wants to review the sustainability of the business for the next 10 years, they want to look at the last 10 years. And you can see this will allow you to see trends either in growth or in loss. Another good chart to use, we go back and select our data. Again, you want to select your data. You want to go to insert. And if you check recommended charts, you can also see it. This is a very different way of doing it. And again, this is just a cluster chart. Make it bigger. And again, a really nice way of showing the trend in growth and really, really very clear in front of you. Now, this is just one data set. This is not, if you had, let's say you were comparing multiple companies and you wanted to see what that looks like. If you go to your scatter plot tab, this will show, again, we have Amazon, we have Netflix, we have Google. We want to choose our data set and insert. If we click recommended charts, again, all very, very similar charts. Let's look at this. This is a stacked chart. So it gives us, it allows us to compare. And again, the legend is here on the bottom, shows what Amazon, what Netflix, what Google is. It allows us to compare those sales on a stacked, so you can see as they compare to each other and over a period of time. All dependent on your data set. And again, if you don't like the chart style that Excel gives you, you can change it up. If you look here, there's a little green cross. It gives chart elements. And this is very important because it allows you to customize your chart. So it allows you to customize the axes. It gives dollar values. It'll also allow you to give a title, and it allows you to make your own titles here. It won't title it for you. Same with chart title. Again, it wants you to title it for you. It can give some data labels if you want them. It can give a data table at the bottom should you want them. Grid lines, again, those are very, very faint in the background. And whether or not you want a legend. So this little cross here in the corner allows you to format it much easier than going up here. Here again is a style. So this is a little paintbrush. That's number second down here. Again, you can change up the styles and then filter. So it will allow you, if you don't want to look, let's say, at some of these years, you can filter your data by just simply unselecting and hitting apply. And there you go. It just adjusts it for you. The nice thing too, when working in a data set is that if something were to change in your table, let's say some of the values were to change, it will automatically update it right in the table for you because it's chosen the exact range that you've selected to create the table. If you update the numbers in the table, it will update them in the charts, and that will work across the Excel workbook. The last thing we're going to do, we're going to look at pivot tables, and we're just going to touch on pivot tables because we could spend hours on pivot tables. There are numerous features that pivot tables can give you and allows you to sort your data really nicely. So I am going to, if you go to the pivot table data sheet, should be the final sheet in the workbook that Caitlin sent, and I think it's linked there as well. We're going to be working in this pivot table, and this pivot table is simply car inventory. It gave us the most value here to showcase what it can and can't do. And in this, it gives us a make, a model, the color, the mileage, the price that we would hope to get if we were going to sell these cars. And again, it's very undervalued. And the cost of what it costs us to purchase these cars that we have in our inventory. So if we want to do a pivot table, there are a couple of ways to do that. We want to go to the Insert tab. And as long as you have selected a box in your data set, Insert tab, the very first option here is Pivot Tables. And it will give recommended pivot tables. And again, it will customize that for you. We don't really want to do that. We are going to do that. We are going to create a pivot table today kind of from scratch. So if you click on the drop down arrow, it's going to ask you where you want to create the pivot table from the table or range you have selected, or if you have an external data source, you could select it from there. Today, we are obviously just doing it from this table or the range. And it will give you this pivot table pop-up. So it's automatically by default going to choose the range of data as a pre-selection. So in this case, it's chosen our, as you can see here, and it's got the dotted line around it. It's got the pivot table data set here. And do we want to use it in a new worksheet or an existing worksheet? I'm just going to simply use a new worksheet for today and hit OK. So it will build another tab, which we've seen come up here as sheet 2. And right now it has no information in it yet. It wants us to build it for us, but it does give you a pivot table field, which is here on the right-hand side. So right now we want to say, we want to know how many vehicles we have, and we want to sort it based on color. So how do we do that? To do that, we want to drag the options that are over here, the make, model, color, mileage, price, and cost. We want to drag whatever options we want to analyze down into these sections below. So again, you have the filters, you have columns, you have rows, and you have values for things here. All you have to do is simply click it and drag it down. So let's drag, because we're going to compare how many vehicles we have. We're going to take the make, and we're going to drag it. It's put itself in the rows already, but you can drag it and drop it here as well. And we're going to click on the model, and we are going to, it will drop automatically down into the rows as well. So as you can see here on your data sheet here, it has nicely put each make and the model of each vehicle, and it expands those out for you. You can also collapse them either by using the little tab here, or oops, sorry. So here it's really nice. You don't have to go through your data set like you would if you were in your pivot sheet table to go through and try to see, okay, I have, you know, one Honda of this, I have one Nissan of this. This pivot table sheet pulls that nicely for you. So if you wanted to drag the color over to the columns, so again, color here, we want it in the columns section. This then adds each color that we have from our data set into columns based on the vehicles. So now we want to get a count. We want to count how many vehicles we have based on the colors. So to do this, we want to select the make from the pivot table field. We're going to drag it down into the values section. And as you can see, I'll expand all of these again. As you can see, it's gone and added. We have, you know, one red Chevy Impala, we have one white, totaling 2. It tells you exactly how many vehicles you have in that make and that model based on color in your inventory. So easy tool to filter your data, as long as you know what you're filtering or what you're looking to filter into sections like this so that you can easily find it. So second example we're going to use, we're going to just showcase some additional features. We want to look at our profits based on the data. So we want to understand, we want to clear this current field. In order to clear the field, you just simply drag and remove, drag and remove, drag and they remove, and it all goes away for you. So again, simply, or you can uncheck it here as well. I just simply drag and remove, and it will go back to our main page. So we want to add the make into the row section again. And in order to find our profit margin is basically the price minus the cost. So we want to pull the price, the make, and the cost options down into the value section. So the price, the make, and the cost option all the way down into. And if you don't like the way that this is set up, obviously I would like the price and the cost side by side instead of one and the other. All you have to do is just switch out how it sets in your values, and it will automatically switch it out here in your table. So how do we figure out a profit margin? Well, to do this, we want to go to our Analyze tab. So Pivot Table Analyze, as you can see up here at the top. And we want to look for the fields, items, and sets buttons. So it's right here in the calculations, fields, items, and sets. And here we want to insert a calculated field. So what is it going to do? If you click on calculated field, it's going to bring up this insert calculated field. So rather than going in and having to go back to your data set and creating a new column to give, you know, the price less the cost to give you what your profit would be, you can simply add that in this calculation section here. So in field 1, we could rename this to say profit margin. And in our formula, we want it to be obviously our price, insert field, minus our cost, insert field. So if that looks like what we want to calculate, which in this case we do, we hit OK. And it automatically will create the profit margin column here, but it will also add it here. And it gives you really nicely exactly the profit margin for each make of vehicles. So total vehicles that you have, the total price, the total cost, and your total profit margin. So if you wanted to sort here, you can always sort your data nicely. So if you wanted to sort the data, if you wanted to see what was the highest margin, what gave the lowest margin, if you wanted red rows or headers, there are always in the design tabs ways to do that. Like we've seen in the other sections, you can always sort, you can insert slicers. There's all kinds of things that you could do. We don't need to do that for this example. We're going to look at one other example just so that you can kind of see different sections here. So let's say we wanted to find the average cost of the vehicles. So to do this, we want to remove the make, the price, and the profit margin from our values section. So again, we want to remove the make, the price, and the profit margin from our values section. So that simply leaves us with the makes here and the sum of the costs here. If we right click on the sum of costs and we go down to value field settings, so again, right click on the sum of costs, go down to value field settings, you have this little pop-up that comes up. So in this case, we're looking at just the sum of the cost. But what if you wanted to look at the average or the count, min, max? There's lots of options here. In this case, we're using the average. If we hit OK, this will give us the average cost of each of these vehicles. And again, if you want to just format it so you can look at it nicer, you can do that. But an easy way, again, right click, value field settings, you can change it. So we can go back to the sum, we can look at the average. There's lots of options here. All you have to do, it will automatically do the calculations for you. So you don't have to go back and try to put a new formula in here. The pivot table will automatically make those for you. Our last example is we're going to look at a percentage of colors we have in our vehicle inventory. So we want to clear all of our boxes that we have in our pivot table fields. We want to clear it completely empty. Oops. Just going to zoom out a little bit here. So now we want to see how many cars we have in each color. We want to sort them. We want to look at the percentage. We want to look at some different values. So to do that, we want to drag color to rows. And we want to drag color again down to values. So again, color to the rows, color to our values. So now we can see how many cars we have in each different color, and we can sort from smallest to largest. If we right click down to sort, let's say smallest to largest, so it will sort for us. We have only one silver, we have two green, we have three blue, etc., all the way down to the total, and it gives us a grand total. To show these as a percentage in the table, again, if you click on any cell in the data set and we right click, we go down to show values as. So again, right click, show values as. And there's different options here. So again, in this case right now, we have no calculation. You can do a percentage of the grand total, a percentage of the column total, a percentage of the row total, so on and so forth, all the way down. There's tons of options and the more options. We want to choose percentage of column total. So we want to see the percentage of green vehicles, blue vehicles in our total. So here we can see what the percentage of vehicles we have in our inventory based on color for a total of 100%. So again, there's lots of options within pivot tables, and I've just given you a really simple one based on the data set. You can also change and filter these. You can add more tables. There are lots of different things. Again, I've just simply touched on pivot tables, and pivot tables could be a 2-hour webinar because there are so many features. But a really good way to look and sort data based on, again, just by simply clicking features. So that is all for me.